going on, everybody? Sam back here as usual. Today we've got a bit of a different video for you. Today we got a roster video. Now this is kind of to make up. I've missed a couple of videos here in the past, and I thought it was just time for a roster video. I try to post about once a month with shorts every so often. I'm trying to put out a couple more shorts, maybe 2 to 3 in between videos. We'll kind of see. My channel's pretty loose, so we're just kind of getting a schedule down. So without further ado, here's the video. Now starting off the roster, we have an Athearn RTR Genesee and Wyoming subdivision unit, a Rapid City Pier and Eastern SD40-2. As I mentioned, this is an Athearn RTR locomotive. It's got DCC and sound. I bought it new at a train show a couple of months back, and it is my first of 2 currently owned Genesee and Wyoming units on the layout. Alright everybody, for our second locomotive we have a Missouri and Northern Arkansas unit, which is another Genesee and Wyoming subdivision. This is an SD45T-2. It's an Athearn RTR as well. This one just has DCC in it. It is an older RTR run. Still a pretty good runner though, pretty decent, and a nice addition to the fleet. Alright, so third up on our roster, we have an Athearn Genesis unit. This is a PRLX patch that I have custom done myself. I'm just wrapping it up. I have to install a decoder yet, and then I might do the lights. We'll kind of see. Those are still old grain of rice or grain of wheat bulbs in there, and we will probably be replacing those just because LEDs are more dependable. As I said, this is an Athearn Genesis, formerly Santa Fe SD75M. Third locomotive on the roster, PRLX patch. For the next unit on the roster, we have an Athearn RTR-9. This one is in Union Pacific paint. It is one of the 3 Union Pacific locomotives that I own. Once again, it's a -9. This one's just, well, it's DC, but I'm going to steal the decoder out of another locomotive and throw it in there, and then I'll have a 3-unit Union Pacific train to run on the layout, or just, foreign power whenever I need that. So that, again, that's an Athearn RTR-9. Alright, so next up on the list is another Union Pacific locomotive. This is the second of 3 that I own. This is a Walther's Mainline SD70 ACE. This one is just DCC. It is consisted with the unit behind it. Once again, DCC, Athearn RTR, or Walther's Mainline, my bad. SD70 ACE. Next up on the list is another Walther's Mainline unit. This is my 3rd Union Pacific unit that I have. This is a SD70 ACE as well. It has DCC and sound. This one is a nose headlight. I forgot to mention the other one was a cab headlight. So yeah, as I said, DCC and sound, SD70 ACE, Walther's Mainline. It is consisted with the other ACE that I have, and it makes a very good duo for foreign power to run around the layout. Alright, so here we got a Bachmann Spectrum unit, which is now a dummy. I've converted it to a dummy. It is one of 2 ex-Conrail locomotives that I currently own for the layout. It is a dummy, as I mentioned, custom weathered, custom patched for NS. I do realize that the numbers are completely wrong, but that was one of my earlier patches, so I just kind of used what I had. It will be fixed here whenever I get the time and motivation to do it. Yep, it's a -8 40C ex-Conrail unit. Alrighty, for our other Conrail, ex-Conrail, now Norfolk Southern unit that I own, this is a Athearn Blue Box SD40-2. It is a project, so no weathering's been done, no handrails are added. It is as well a dummy. It was a dummy when I bought it, brand new in the box. It has been patched. Once again, I realized that the number is completely wrong, just haven't had the time to patch it. And there's your Athearn Blue Box SD40-2. Next up, we've got one of my favorite locomotives on the fleet. This is what I affectionately call the Dunit. As many of you know, I am a Mountain Dew connoisseur. I love my Mountain Dew, and as such, I decided to paint this former Santa Fe GP9 Blue Box unit. Was a dummy. I decided to paint it in Mountain Dew colors. A little hard to tell, but there is a bit of a two-tone The cab and then the frame are a different color than the long hood and the short hood. But that is the unit. Next up, we got another Bachmann Spectrum unit. This is a Amtrak F40PH. It is in, I believe, the Phase 2 paint, Phase 2 or 3. I'm not an expert on Amtrak paints, so just bear with me. But as I said, this is an F40PH. It was DCC, but I stole the decoder out of it for a couple of other locomotives, which I will point out to you if I remember. You know, a lot of people hate on Spectrum. This one and the one behind it have done very well for me. They look nice running together. You know, it's until I get something better for my Amtrak. So there we are, Bachmann Spectrum F40PH. Now for our final foreign power unit, we have another Amtrak F40PH by Bachmann Spectrum. This is DC. It was DCC, consisted with the other locomotive, the other F40PH that I own. The reason I stole DCC out of both of them is because I had other locomotives that I've obtained that needed decoders, and I haven't really run these Amtrak units as I don't have a full loop on the layout. So that's why you haven't seen very much of these guys, but I promise I'll get some decoders in them once I get the layout finished, and I will run that Amtrak train. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and start my NS power. So this is a recent acquisition. This is a Kato SD80 Mac in NS paint. I was going to wait and save this, but it's arriving tomorrow, so I guess it's not much of a surprise at this point, considering I'll probably post something about it before I get this video out. But yeah, this is a Kato SD80 Mac. It has a decoder in it. It's just DC, or it's DCC now. It was just DC, but I stole a decoder out of one of the F40PHs to put in this. The other one that I have arriving is Sound. It's a more modern unit, but I found it on eBay after a train show that was not as fruitful as I was hoping. So I still had money left over in the budget, so that's why I decided to purchase this and the other one. Next up on the roster, we've got an MTH unit. This is a SD70M-2. It is DCC, no sound. It was acquired at a train show back in 2019, late 2019 if I remember. Just DCC, no sound. Pretty good runner. I don't know why I don't run it more often. It's a beautiful locomotive. Could have done better on the weathering job, but it's a decent locomotive and something for road power. Next on the roster, we have an Intermountain SD40-2, which was acquired from one of my buddies that I purchased it off of. It does have a decoder now. It has a 21-pin, 6-function decoder, so, you know, it does all the functions. I have to program it because the ditch lights are a little wonky. One is activated by F1 and the other is activated by F2, which, long story short, they should work together by pressing, I believe, F5 or F6, depending on what you set it to. But yeah, this is an Intermountain SD40-2, acquired off of one of my buddies. I threw DCC in it. Pretty good unit. Good yard power, local power. Next up on the roster, we've got this Intermountain unit. It is a ES40 DC or an ES44 DC. It is an Intermountain unit. This one has sound. It is pretty good sounding. A lot of people hate on Tsunami. I really haven't had any issues with this. Horn could be a little improved. Probably going to turn that up. I really love the bell on it. You know, it's fairly prototypical. Nice looking unit. That is nice primer unit. Next up, we have another Intermountain locomotive. This is another ES40 DC or an ES44 DC. As I said, Intermountain, DCC, no sound. Works very well consisted with the primer unit. Really well detailed. Picked this up as well in 2019 from a train show. Came with factory DCC. Probably one of my favorite locomotives in the fleet. Just nice runner, quiet, looks pretty good. Last Gevo that I currently own is a Scale Trains operator unit. This was my first sound unit that I ever purchased. Details have been added by yours truly. Brass handrails and grab irons, or not handrails, just the grab irons. Just the grab irons are brass. I bent those myself to kind of, you know, make it a little better. Because operator, while they are decent locomotives, decent starter locomotives for a cheap price, they don't really have a whole lot of detail. So after adding detail, it's a decent unit. Probably ought to run it more, but that's where we are. And as I may have mentioned, this is a sound unit, scale trains operator. Next, we have another Walther's mainline unit. This is a ST70 ACE. It is DCC and sound equipped. I haven't added details. I ought to add a detail kit and a plow sometime soon. Good road power, boring road power, whatever you want to call it. Not too bad. It's also kind of my experiment locomotive. I've experimented with different speakers in it. That's what I'm currently working on, is finding a better speaker for it. But yeah, it's a decent unit. Bought it, 2020 maybe. Pretty decent unit. Was my second sound unit that I acquired. Nothing too much to say about it. It's just a Walther's mainline unit. Alright, so this is a full custom unit. It is a project. Really kind of need to get working on it a little more. It is an Athearn Blue Box -9, which I have painted into the Norfolk Southern Operation Lifesaver paint scheme. This was sort of the first special interest unit that I ever saw, so it kind of means a little something to me. I mean, it's a blue box, so it's not that great. Definitely hope to acquire a better version of this locomotive because I love this paint scheme. It's just so simple, but it's just something kind of cool. Unfortunately, they are gone now, but this is a dummy. Did have a motor, pulled the motor, because at the time I didn't really know what I was doing with those. So yeah, that's what that is. That is a Athearn Blue Box -9. All right, for our next unit, we have a Bachmann unit. This is the Erie Heritage unit, owned by Norfolk Southern. DCC and sound equipped. As I mentioned, Bachmann. Nothing over the top, but you know what? It's a heritage unit, which, those are always cool to see. This was the first heritage unit that I saw of NS, and I acquired it for very, very good price off of one of my friends as well. So yeah, Bachmann's DCC and sound unit. Now for the final active unit on my roster, we have another heritage unit. Unfortunately, this is another Bachmann with sound. Acquired this off of one of my friends as well, in a trade. It is DCC and sound. Once again, not a whole lot to say. It's a Spectrum unit, so you kind of get what you pay for. Actually, that's not even true. These things are a little overpriced. But you know what? Not a bad unit, at least until I acquire Athearn versions of these, Athearn Genesis versions of these. So yep, that's the last active unit on the roster. Hope you enjoyed the active roster. So now we've got the inactive roster. Kind of locomotives that at one point served a purpose on the layout, but have kind of met their demise, and they're just showpieces now. Nothing too special. So I'm just kind of blow through these quickly. But first off, these two units, they are both Bachmann units. The high hood is a dummy unit. Got it for Christmas a while back. It was one of the first locomotives that I owned. And it's a Bachmann unit. DC never did throw a decoder in it, but two of these, both GP units, they pulled their weight. This ended up getting DCC in it, but they definitely both pulled their weight and served on the layout as yard units and local power units for a while. Those are being retired as I'm getting better locomotives, such as Athearns or just other GP and SD units for local power. Next up, we got another blue box. This is a -9, also acquired off of a friend for very, very cheap. It was a project locomotive that I threw DCC in. I wanted to have a little bit of experience equipping DCC in a blue box locomotive because there are some nice blue boxes out there. Next, we've got a Athearn unit, another Athearn unit. This is a ready-to-run unit. It is the Norfolk and Western Heritage unit, although it is the completely wrong body style, So it's just, it's there. It was one of my first units. I didn't know at the time that it was the wrong body style when I bought it, but it's just kind of there. It exists. I don't really want to sell it because it has a little bit of sentimental value to me. Next up, we have another Scale Trains unit. This is an Operator SD40. this has DC, and I'm never going to bother putting DCC in it unless something drastic happens. This was a scam. Got scammed on it. Not going to go into great detail on that. Finally, we got another Dash 9 shell. This is a BNSF H1 shell. I stole the frame and the wheels and whatnot from it for the 9250 unit that I custom did. So it'll serve its purpose hopefully later on the layout. You know, it'll either be picked apart for parts, or I'll throw it on a new chassis and get it running again. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Have yourself a great day.